Capital Diversity and Inclusion Consultants welcomes you to our Introduction to Housing. In this introduction, we will discuss homelessness and affordability and how it is a social, not an individual problem. Please keep in mind that this is only a basic introduction and does not begin to cover all of the housing-related social problems. So let's talk a little about homelessness. Homelessness is an increasing problem for most cities in America. People go to these cities for employment, education, opportunity, and access to transportation and other resources. Instead, having spent everything they have getting there, they often end up with no job, no home, and no help. California has the nation's largest homeless population, averaging up to 160,000 daily. These numbers are gathered from point-in-time or PIT counts, which are conducted in each county on the same day. Counts include homeless encampments, those living in their vehicle, and those in shelters. These counts, however, are not inclusive and do not accurately represent the total number of homeless. These counts have also increased on an average of 17 to 20% annually. Homelessness is a national epidemic. Homeless people come from every walk of life, every nationality, race, color, gender, and age. Homelessness today affects children, disabled, elderly, families, low-income wage earners, minorities, students, veterans, and more. Homelessness also affects immigrant families. When my husband came to the U.S. from Canada, as a visitor, he never expected to meet anyone and start a family. He did not have a work visa, and for the 3 years we went through the immigration process, was unable to work to support us. We had 2 small children and lived in our car. We sought temporary shelter and were told we had a choice. I could go to a shelter with my kids, but only if I said that we were the victims of domestic abuse. Or we could stay in our car and stay together. It sent the message that having a father was not important to the welfare of our children. We chose to live in our car and keep our family intact, and we were not alone. This table shows the number of homeless students attending public school in the 10 Bay Area counties and in Sacramento. Combined, there are over 35,000 homeless students in these 11 counties. Many schools today have added services for their homeless students that include food, clothing, school supplies, coats, blankets, and family counseling. Public-private partnerships with business and local agencies can help ease the homeless crisis, benefiting the people, the business, and the city. Policymakers need to consider more than just zoning and the development cost of housing. They also need to consider the human cost a lack of shelter and housing bring. Now let's talk about the effect homelessness has on a city. Homeless encampments can and do threaten the safety of residents, businesses, and visitors. They turn city streets into refugee camps where access to food, medical treatment, sanitation, and social services are limited or non-existent. When people do not feel safe walking down their streets, when they must navigate through tense cities to get to a business, when there is so much trash on the streets that it spreads disease, the city, the businesses, and the people suffer. Communities cannot thrive when the homeless population takes over their business fronts, leaves drug and alcohol paraphernalia on the sidewalks, uses public doorways as toilets, and yells, threatens, or intimidates those who simply want to do business. Housing, like food and healthcare, is a basic human need, something everyone needs for safety, health, and comfort. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, is the federal agency that measures and determines what affordable housing is. HUD has been measuring housing costs for affordability for over 80 years. When they first started, the federal limit was 20% of your income. Today, it is 30%. Limited availability and market value rents are a primary driver of housing costs and homelessness, and it affects metropolitan areas across the nation. Housing costs have increased over 2,680% in the last 100 years. The dollar value has increased by 1,391%, or half that of the cost of living in the same amount of time. San Francisco Curbed, a real estate newspaper, offered this as a comparison. At the beginning of the San Francisco housing boom, over 100 years ago, if you could scrape together $25 a month, you could get a first-class brick house on Union Street near Hyde. That's about $373 in today's value, so it's a pretty good deal, right? Except that this area, known as Russian Hill, is now averaging $3,730 for a one-bedroom apartment, or 100 times the equivalent rental value. I'm focusing attention on the greater San Francisco Bay Area as it has one of the most expensive rental rates and a limited housing market. It means that essential workers like teachers, maintenance workers, and grocery store clerks cannot afford to live where they work. This graphic, based on a 2019 teacher salary and local rents, shows how much people would have to earn to be able to afford housing in the 10 Bay Area counties. A minimum wage earner at $15 per hour in San Francisco makes $2,400 per month before taxes. The average rent for a two-bedroom apartment, $3,802 a month via a Zillow search. It would take 5 minimum wage earners to afford that two-bedroom apartment. Health, sanitation, and safety should not be political playthings. They should be foremost in the thoughts of those who develop housing and in those who set the standards for what is acceptable. Fair market rates should reflect what average people can afford, not what the developers can gouge out of them. Housing should not come at the expense of food, health, and access to schools and jobs. When basic needs cannot be met, people suffer. Not just those who can afford the housing, but the entire community, in the form of increased risk of violence, disease, and in the excrement and trash building up on city streets. If you or someone you know is facing housing problems, needs assistance with a disability accommodation in your housing, or if you feel you've been discriminated against, please contact a local fair housing authority or advocate, such as Fair Housing Advocates of Northern California or Legal Services of Northern California, or contact your local public housing authority or state or county court for more information. Websites or Facebook pages are noted. For more information on homelessness or other housing issues, please contact Dawn Gagno, Director of Social Programming, at 916-912-3688 or email at dgagno@gmail.com. Thank you very much.